The function of the nerve is to conduct. See, here is very clearly written the word conductance. Conductance means what? Probaho, right? From one point to some other distance point. If something is being conducted, that is, something flows or something moves from one point to the other, we say that a conducting phenomena is going on. And this is the function of a nerve. Nerve is to conduct, contrasting to the function of the muscle, which is to contract. So if this is a muscle, in that case, it would contract. But if this is the nerve, then in that case, it would conduct. If I draw this entire system of the muscles and the nerves together, that means, say for example, if this is the brain, and this be the spinal cord, in that case, take for example that there is an eye. Choke, you know, eyeball, and surrounding the eyeballs are different muscles. These muscles are known as what? The extraocular muscles. Okay. Now there is a nerve connecting the brain to these muscles, and that nerve is known as, I will repeat this name again. Well, I give the names of all the individual nerves. That is oculomotor nerve. Now the function is that this is a motor nerve, right? So I'm using for that long time only a single color. Let me indicate this particular oculomotor nerve with a different color. So this oculomotor nerve would what? It would conduct. What would it conduct? It would conduct impulse. It would conduct the depolarized state. Try to recall, yesterday I explained what depolarized state is. If you do not remember what depolarized state is, go back to the videos and follow. So this impulse transmits. It gets transmitted into the muscle. Which muscle are these ones? These are known as extraocular muscles. I'm not going to the details of extraocular muscles, but the result of this transmission is that individual extraocular muscles undergo contraction. And what do we see? We see that the eyes are moving something like this, up, down movement or sideways movement. All these movements are possible because of the contractions of the muscles. So in a nutshell, what we can say that this EM are contractile elements. Shankochon, what contracted, that is probably Shumana who said it as contraction, Shankochon and Prosharon. Okay, so these are the contractile elements, the EOM. But the nerve, when you are speaking of nerve, this will be the conducting element. So this is the conducting elements. Clear? To understand the difference, the principal difference between a nerve tissue and a muscle tissue. Muscle tissue can shorten, contract, but a nerve tissue, it can never either shorten or can lengthen. But it can conduct. Impulse can flow from one point to the other point. Did you understand the difference now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now I said that today I'll be elaborating the nerve anatomy, as well as I was going to name the individual nerves one by one. Okay, first, let me elaborate the anatomy of any nerve. So speaking of the anatomy of the nerve, what we see broadly are basically, somewhat yellowish white cord-like things. I'm not dissection korbo. If you do agree, I will show you a dissected specimen in which the nerves will be very clearly visible. They are all solid. How do they look like? They are all solid, cord-like structures. They are not hollow. You need to take a note of this point. The ones that are hollow are the vascular channels. Jar moddhe diye either blood or lymph carry on. What is blood? What is lymph? What is lymphatic system? I will come to that later on another class when I will teach those topics. As of now, know that these are solid. Mane bhetorta fapa noy, bhetorta bhorat. Okay. Now, the unit of every nerve, as you know, What is that unit known as? Try to recall. Yesterday's class, I have explained, I have mentioned it. What is the structural and functional unit of the nervous system? Neuron. Correct,
Neuron.
Kashi. Neuron. Right.
Sir, excuse me, sir. Alfia join hote পারছি না.
Alfia Saddab Vishwarup. Which a join? Okay. KK recently joined called Alfia and Saddab. Okay, let's go back. So, how are the neurons organized in a nerve? That is what my topic is as of now. The neurons, as I said, are the cord-like structures. Right. Now, let me give you a diagram, or let me draw that diagram directly. Okay. Take for example that this is an action. Action key jinish, I am not going to repeat that anymore. It is already in another video. Now, I said that in the action, let me take that diagram wherever I explained action. So that diagram is somewhere out here in this same board. So here I explained the concept of the depolarization with the help of an action. Now have a look again that this action is a string or a cord-like structure, right? And the depolarized state is going to be transmitted point by point across the entire length of the action. That is what I said. Now, if every point on the length of the action be covered by a single transmission of a single impulse, in that case, the time that it will consume for a single impulse to be transmitted from one end to the other, the time will be a huge one. Normally, what we see, suppose if accidentally there is a contact with some hot object out here in the tip of my finger, then almost in no time, I will withdraw my hand from that hot object, right? So the time elapsed is very less. Now, in order to reduce the time between the contact and the response, contact with the hot object and the response of withdrawal of the finger, in order to reduce the time between these two events, what is necessary is that the impulse doesn't transmit along every points of the entire length of the action. Rather, time will be saved if, say for example, if I draw another action out here, if the impulse jumps from one point to the other and then again to the other, so stretches in between these points, that means this particular stretches that I'm indicating in the black line, stretches in between this point of the actions are skipped. Now, how is this possible? This kind of conduction is known as saltatory conduction. S-A-L-T-A-T-O-R-Y, saltatory conduction. How is saltatory conduction present? Saltatory conduction is possible because this particular action remains in contact directly to its own environment only in some specific areas, not throughout the entire length. That means, see, wherever this depolarization has to take place, এই যে depolarization যেখানে যেখানে হবে, in those areas the cell membrane or the axonema needs to be in contact with the environment, তাই তো? বাইরের পরিবেশের সাথে যোগাযোগে থাকতে হবে। But in reality এই বাইরের পরিবেশের সাথে যোগাযোগটা continuous নয়, টানা across the entire length of the axon নয়। Rather, this entire length of the action are covered up by another structures which are called Schwann cell sheath. এটাকে বলা হয় Schwann cell sheath, মানে এটা একটা সেল যেটা ধরো এইটা হচ্ছে একটা অ্যাকশনটা কিরকম ভাবে র্যাপিং করে রয়েছে, বোঝা যাচ্ছে, কভার আপ করে রয়েছে। and the Schwann cell sheath এর দুটো ফাংশন, একটা হচ্ছে এই যে এক্সপোজার টু দ্য এনভায়রনমেন্ট, এই পয়েন্টস গুলোকে লিমিট করা, তাতে কি হবে একটা ইম্পালস এই প্রান্ত থেকে পরবর্তী প্রান্ত এইখানে, অর্থাৎ যেখানে Schwann cell sheathটা নেই সেটাকে আমি একটা অন্য কালি দিয়ে দেখাচ্ছি, ব্লু উইং, এই জায়গাটার নাম হচ্ছে নোডস অফ Ranvier. So in this points of the nodes of Ranvier, there is a direct contact with the axonema to its own environment, and having a direct contact means that there will be a depolarization in this particular area. The next depolarization would occur on the next node of Ranvier again. So as if the impulse would jump from one node to the other node, then to the next node. Understood? So by this process of jumping, the transmission would get even more faster. তাহলে ট্রান্সমিশন স্পিড কে বাড়ানোতে একটা রোল হচ্ছে এই Schwann cell sheath এর। নেক্সট আর একটা যে রোল রয়েছে সেটা এবার নার্ভের অ্যানাটমিটা পড়াতে গিয়ে লেট মি এক্সপ্লেইন, যে wherever we see these actions are not present isolately. এটা আমি আগের দিনকে বলেছিলাম, where I explained the difference between nerve and the tract. মনে করে দেখো, যদি না মনে থাকে আমি কালকের বোর্ডটাকে আরেকবার দেখাচ্ছি, সেখানে দেখো এই কথাগুলো বলেছিলাম যে ট্র্যাক্টস কাকে বলে, মনে আছে? নিউরোনাল নার্ভস আর নিউরোনাল ট্র্যাক্টস কাকে বলে এটা বলেছিলাম। নার্ভস কি? বান্ডেল অফ অ্যাকশনস, তাই তো? আবার যেমন বান্ডেল অফ সেল বডিজ যদি থাকে, সেল বডিজ কি জিনিস সেটা গতকালকে বলেছি, যারা আসেনি তারা ভিডিও দেখে নেবে, ঠিক আছে? তো বান্ডেল অফ সেল বডিজ বা কালেকশন অফ সেল বডিজ, সেটাকে নিউক্লি বা গ্যাংলিয়ন বলা হয়। নিউক্লি বলা হয় if that is inside the central nervous system. Central nervous system কি জিনিস, that has also been explained. যারা একটা করে ক্লাস at least introductory ক্লাস মিস করছে তারা অনেকটা মিস করে যাচ্ছে, তাদের মিসের এফেক্টটা যেন পরবর্তী ক্লাসে না পড়ে তার জন্য ভিডিও করে রাখা আছে ইউটিউবে। প্লিজ গো দেয়ার and review those videos as many number of times as you want. Okay, তো এই যে নার্ভস বান্ডেল অফ অ্যাকশনস, এটা মনে পড়েছে at least? তাহলে if two actions are placed side by side, এখানে আমি একটা অ্যাকশন দেখিয়েছি, এর পাশে if I draw another action, ঠিক আছে, তাতে কি হচ্ছে, এখানে একটা ইলেকট্রিক্যাল ট্রান্সমিশন আছে, ইম্পালস, আবার পাশেও অ্যাকশনে আর একটা ইলেকট্রিক্যাল ট্রান্সমিশন আছে। তাহলে সেই ক্ষেত্রে কোনো সময় যদি দুটো অ্যাকশন যদি কন্ট্যাক্ট হয়ে যায়, যদি ছোঁয়া লেগে যায়, তাহলে একটা অ্যাকশনের ইম্পালস অন্য অ্যাকশনে চলে যেতে পারে, বা এই অ্যাকশনের ইম্পালস এটাতে চলে যেতে পারে, অর্থাৎ কি ক্রস করে যেতে পারে ইম্পালসটা, পারে তো? যেমন দুটো তার যদি হঠাৎ করে সার্কিটে, আমাদের যে ইলেকট্রিক্যাল যে ওয়ারিং সার্কিট রয়েছে, ওখানে যদি দুটো তার যদি হঠাৎ করে যদি কন্ট্যাক্টে চলে আসে, তাহলে শর্ট সার্কিট হয়ে যাবে, ফ্ল্যাশ হবে, শর্ট সার্কিট হয়ে যাবে, হবে তো? সিমিলারলি এখানেও সেই শর্ট সার্কিটের একটা ব্যাপার আছে, যেহেতু দুটো ইলেকট্রিক্যাল ইন নেচার কন্ডাক্টেন্সটা, যাতে করে শর্ট সার্কিটটা না হয় তার জন্য আবার যে জিনিসটা রোল প্লে করে সেটা হচ্ছে এই Schwann cell sheath গুলো। দিস Schwann cell sheath, যেটা নামটা আমি এখানে লিখেছি কি কোথাও, SCHWANN, Schwann cell sheath. এটা কি? It is an insulation. ইলেকট্রিকের তার যদি কখনো ধরো, দেখবে একটা প্লাস্টিকের একটা বা প্লাস্টিক বা ফাইব্রাস কাভারিং আছে, ভেতরে মেটালটা আছে। তামার তার যদি হয়, ভেতরে কপার বা অন্য কোনো মেটালের যদি ওয়্যার হয়, তাহলে ভেতরে সেটা কোরে দেখতে পাবে, বাট সারাউন্ডিং দ্য কোর ইজ অ্যান ইনসুলেশন। What does the insulation do? The insulation prevents the cross transfer of the electrical conductance. এটা যাতে না হয় সেটাকে ইনশিওর করে। বোঝা গেল?
Yes, sir.
তার মানে এটা কি দাঁড়াচ্ছে, আমি যদি কোনো একটা পয়েন্টের থেকে, ধরো আমি এখান থেকে একটা সেকশন করলাম, এই সেকশন করলে পরে আমি কি দেখতে পারবো, একদম মধ্যখানে সেকশনটার কি থাকবে, থাকবে এইটা হচ্ছে একটা অ্যাকশন, আর অ্যাকশনকে ঘিরে রেখে দিয়েছে, এরকম ভাবে ঘুরিয়ে ঘিরে রেখে দিয়েছে, সেটা হচ্ছে কি এই সোয়ান সেল শিটটা। সেই ক্রস সেকশনটা দেখা যাবে। ঠিক আছে, বোঝা গেল?
Yes, sir.
এইবার ধরো ঠিক এর অ্যাডজেসেন্সিতে এইরকম আর একটা অ্যাকশন রয়েছে, তাকেও ঘিরে রয়েছে, এরকম আরো একটা রয়েছে। আমি কতগুলো মাত্র এক্সাম্পল দিয়ে দেখাবো, এখানে ধরো 4টে কি 5টা আমি আঁকলাম, এরকম ভাবে রয়েছে সোয়ান সেল শিট, তার মধ্যে এখানে রয়েছে অ্যাকশনস। এই যে একটা টোটাল যে গ্রুপ তৈরি হচ্ছে, দ্যাট মিন্স কি একটা বান্ডেল তৈরি হলো, বান্ডেল অফ অ্যাকশনস, and these bundle of actions is bound by a single membrane. Let me change the color of this membrane. This membrane is termed as perineurium. Okay, so inside the perineurium, what do we find? We find bundle of actions surrounded by Schwann cell shape, by Schwann cell sheets. Okay, and not only the Schwann cell sheets, in addition to that, there is another layer that is known as Indoneurium. So let me draw that Indoneurium in some yellow color. দেখতে পাচ্ছ Indoneurium bound. Why is it Indoneurium bound? Because যেখানে যেখানে নোডস অফ রানভিয়ার রয়েছে, এই নোডস অফ রানভিয়ার গুলোও কিন্তু পাশাপাশি অ্যাকশনসের মধ্যে শর্ট সার্কিট তৈরি করতে পারে, তাই তো? যেমন ধরো এই পরিস্থিতিটাই যদি বলি, this nodes of Ranvier, this one and the other one marked here as number 2, these two are very close, তাই তো? এই দুটো is very close, so there is a chance that the impulse might transfer from one action to the adjacent action, পাশাপাশি অ্যাকশনে। তাহলে এই দুটোর মধ্যেতে যদি if I place another layer that I am drawing in this yellow color, that means there is no way that sideways transfer of impulse is possible. মানে শর্ট সার্কিটের কোনো উপায় আর থাকছে না। Is the concept now clear?
Yes, sir.
So what do I see out here? That in the yellow color I have drawn what? The Indoneurium, and inside the Indoneurium at repeated intervals there are Schwann cell sheets which is surrounding the entire long stretch of actions. এখানে নার্ভাস স্ট্রাকচার শেষ নয়, বিকজ যে পেরিনিউরিয়াম বাউন্ড যে স্ট্রাকচারটা রয়েছে, I can draw another similar perineurium bound structure. So inside this perineurium bound structure, what I will see here again is an action that is surrounded by Schwann cell sheet. And not only one such structure is present, another such structure can be drawn. Okay. Similarly, another one can also be drawn. So these are two such bundles. Each bundle is of action. Understood? So each perineurium bound structure, I would write it as each perineurium bound structures are again surrounded by a another layer. How do I draw that layer? With the help of black color. Is a black color, what I have shown is another layer, and this particular layer is known as epineurium. So Indoneurium is bounding individual actions. Bundle of actions is being bound by the perineurium. And multiple such perineurium bound structures are bounded again in turn by the thing that is called epineurium. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
The
Yes, sir.
space in between these two perineurium bound structures are known as also epineurium. So I will draw the black lines again here. So this entire thing is known as epineurium. But there is a difference between the name of these two different epineuriums. This is particularly known as interfascicular epineurium. Interfascicular epineurium. So these blue bound structures or the perineum bound structures are known as fascicles. I will write it here for the sake of clarity. Understood? What are fascicles? So multiple such fascicles are embedded in the interfascicular epineurium, which again is bound by the layer that is called epineurium. And this epineurium bound layer is known as nerves. Is the
Excuse me,
concept
sir.
okay? Yes.
Sir, can you please explain again that fascicles?
That which one?
Sir, fascicles.
Fascicles. You
Yes, sir.
understood the individual actions bound by endoneuriums. That part is clear.
Yes.
Now all the actions are getting bundled up. That is clear.
Yes, sir.
Each single bundle of these actions, which is entirely bound by the perineurium, that is this blue colored line, this blue colored circle. This entire structure is fasciculus. Understood what is fasciculus? So this is one fasciculus that I have written. This is the another fasciculus. This is another fasciculus. Understood what is fasciculus now?
Yes, sir.
Now the thing is, yesterday I was giving you a concept of a mixed nerve. What happens in a mixed nerve is this entire structure is a nerve. So a nerve would contain multiple fascicles. This nerve containing two fascicles. For the sake of demonstration, I have shown only two. But in reality, it can contain more than two fascicles. And each of these fascicles to contain multiple actions, which are all bundled up. So there are basically three levels of arrangement, right? The first level is definitely the nerve. That is the first level. First level is the nerve. The second level is this one. The second level is the nerve fascicles. And the third level is the level of the actions. This is the third level. Now, what do we mean by the word mixed nerve? Basically means that of a single nerve, some fascicles are sensory and the other fascicles are motor. Understood now? I have already explained what is sensory and what is motor. That is explained in the separate video. But few fascicles, when they be sensory and the other fascicles, when they be motor, of the same single nerve, then that same single nerve becomes the mixed nerve. There are few nerves which are having every fascicle sensory or every fascicle motor. In that case, the nerve having every fascicle sensory to be termed as the sensory nerve. And the other kind of nerve which is having every fascicle, the motor, would be termed as the motor nerve. That was very clear. Regarding the sensory and motor, the line of differentiation or the line of the demarcation was very clear yesterday. But yesterday we had a confusion probably on how the mixed nerve is formed. But that confusion becomes clear when you come to know the anatomical structure of the nerve, when you come to know that each single nerve doesn't mean each single action. Rather, it means each collections of fascicles, which in turn again means each collections of actions. So what do we mean by nerve is that it is containing multiple actions, of which some group of actions are sensory and the other group of actions are motor. In that way, the entire nerve becomes the mixed nerve. Understood? How a single nerve becomes a mixed one, because a single nerve contains more than one action, some of which are sensory and the others are motor of that same single nerve. Is the concept now clear?